appreciate you guys inviting us. One of the things that I enjoy most is teaching. I love being a doctor, I love having a clinic, I love being there, but there's something about teaching. I can interact with one patient, or I could interact with 1,000 people, in a lecture or teaching, that type of thing. So one of the things that people should know about doctors is that, this is one of the most important things, is that the word doctor, all right, it comes from Latin and ancient Greek. It means teacher. We're supposed to treat you, but really most of all, if you look at the original Hippocratic Oath, not the one being used today, but if you look at the original Hippocratic Oath, it tells that those who take the oath and become doctors are first and foremost is to teach our patients how to take care of themselves. We have a motto at the clinic. We tell patients we will treat you till you become boring and we tell you to go away. Never become part of a doctor's retirement program. Get better, go away, spend your money somewhere else. All right. Also, a couple of things that were up here. There's a lot of vegan information up here. It's all free. I think there's a vegan video up here. DVD, or do we not have that today? Okay, well there's a lot of vegan information, vegan recipes, lots of neat information. It's all free. Take it, enjoy it. It's for you. All right, so the main point to this lecture today is about case histories. I am, well, as you know, Dr. Spindelilus. I have been in medical practice now almost 20 years, and I have a lot of stories. My patients know I'm a talker. And one of the main points I try to make to patients is you are not being rude for interrupting me, because I will talk and talk and talk. So I'm going to try to keep this down as short as I can within the limits that you guys give me. So I have a lot of stories, and so today are my stories. That's really all I'm going to talk about today are stories. But the reason I really wanted to do this is because one of the biggest things that we see in the clinic when people come down there, like most naturopathic centers, most holistic or alternative, I don't like the word alternative, I like to think that we were the main one, and then you go to the ER when you have to. One of the most important things that we notice is that patients usually come to us as a last resort. They've tried everything else, and it's not that other doctors are bad. We all have a different place. We all have a different job to do, and there's a place for all of us. But usually they come to us as a last resort. And so the biggest reason I do these lectures on case histories is to give hope that nothing is incurable under God. I know that you're Seventh Day, so a lot of you have probably heard of Dr. Christopher, a very famous naturopathic doctor. Okay. He was one of the instructors at one of the medical schools I went to before I went to naturopathic medical school. And he had a saying that I learned, and from the very beginning, and it has been my motto since the day I heard it. There are no such things as incurable diseases, only incurable people. It's up to you to take responsibility, for you to take charge of your own healing. All right. What I'd like to do real quick, and then I'm going to get in case histories, I'd like to touch on these. I love these back here. It is extremely rare for me to find any church that does this, that actually talks about health. Most people think that you're here, you live, you're born, you die, and you hope you did good, and you were able to go to heaven. But this is a gift too. This is important that we're here, and it's important that we cherish the temples that we were born in. I just love these. We have a full dispensary at our clinic, all right? It's got a massive, good dispensary on holistic medications. So holistic, we know, means to treat the body as a whole, right? It not only means natural and safe, but it means to treat the body as a whole. If somebody has thyroid, hypothyroidism, we'll treat the thyroid, but it also takes the whole body being treated because the thyroid didn't get out of whack all by itself. And the number one thing we tell patients is nutrition. Number one. The medications we have, they have to have something to work with. And that's the building blocks that come from nutrition. And that's why I'm one of only 2 doctors in this part of Northern California who is a vegan. And on top of that, I'm a raw vegan. All right, so I'm really, according to some people, and I've had them come to the clinic and go, you're so extreme. I don't think so. I think having surgery after surgery after surgery is extreme. And me eating good food is not so extreme. So nutrition is number one. Eat well. I think there was a question earlier about, or a statement about what really is raw. For example, I'm not going to go into whole raw deep on here because I want to touch on a lot of others. But just to help you understand what raw means. All right, and that's important for everything else. Raw means that inside of us, we all produce this pool of enzymes every day, but we only make a limited number of enzymes. The best way for you to understand enzymes is to replace the word enzyme with catalyst. It starts something. An enzyme starts a process. It starts something going. And there are thousands of different processes that enzymes work with. But here's the problem. Enzymes get destroyed with heat. And all plant material, okay, because we're talking vegan here, all plant material has natural enzymes that are in them. They're there. But they get destroyed over 118 degrees. Anything heated over 118. So a lot of stuff dies here in Reading in the summertime. But anything over 118 destroys the enzymes. So as my wife and I, because I'm a raw vegan and she's a high raw, we don't heat anything that is meant to be raw over 105. Because it definitely gets hotter in Reading than 105, and so we know it's still alive. And it is. So anything heated up. So for example, I have a baked apple in this hand and a raw one in this one. Okay, baked apples are great. Oh yeah, they taste wonderful. I'm not saying you shouldn't have them. But it was heated over 118, so all the enzymes that are inherent in it are gone. They're dead. So when you eat that, your body goes, okay, I recognize this is an apple. There are some good things that are in it. All right, even baked. But I'm going to have to use some of my pool of enzymes to start the process to break it down. That means those enzymes that I could have used for something else, I now don't get to. And over here, I have a raw apple. It came with everything necessary, the enzymes, everything. So when I eat it, my body goes, all right, I don't have to use any of mine in order to start the breakdown. So that's the definition for raw, okay, if that helps. All right, exercise, oh my gosh. We have so many cancer patients at the clinic, and one of the things I tell them, as hard as this is hard for them to get, or Lyme patients, you must exercise. Exercise creates endorphins, it supports the immune system, we were never meant to be couch potatoes. We were given 2 arms, 2 legs to keep moving. Plus exercise moves the lymphatic system. You have 2 circulatory systems in you. One's blood, one's lymphatic. Okay, lymphatic is the garbage, the sewer system. The blood system has a heart, has the heart. It's a pump. Lymphatic doesn't have a pump. It takes you moving, massage, things of that nature. You have to get it moving. So exercise, great. Water. I probably don't need to say very much about a lot of things. Water we know we've got to have. Without water, we can't flush the toxins out. And again, make sure it's good water. All right, I'm not saying you have to spend the money for distilled, but try to use filtered. All right, let's see, sunlight. Got to put that big fiery ball up in the sky for a reason, okay? Makes vitamin D, it actually stimulates our immune system. It affects the serotonin in our brain so that we know when to go to sleep. Temperate. Okay, moderation, all right. Things we love, a lot of good things, but in moderation, obviously. Air. One of the biggest problems as people start getting older is they quit filling in their lungs, right? This side has 3 lobes, this side has 2. The heart took up part of it. All right, most people rarely ever breathe below the first lobe. Hence the reason we have so much bronchial issues, so much pneumonia. If you learn to deep breathe, you're not going to ever get pneumonia again. All right. Rest. One of the best medicines in the universe is sleep. That's one of the hardest things for some people to get, but sleep, get some rest. And the last, I love most of all right? Remember, trust. No doctor on this planet is actually a real healer, all right? At best, a doctor is a facilitator, a teacher, or a guide. That's really all we are. I don't care whether you're MD, ND, OD, I don't care. The only real healer that you have trust in is between you and who you believe in. So I love these. It was really great that you guys did that. Okay, so let's get into some case histories. This is some of my favorite stuff that I like to do. So what I'm telling you is true. I know some of you may not believe this, but these are true. These are patients that we actually have had over the years at the clinic. We're going to talk about our most drastic. And let's see. Let me see if I have it up here. Okay, I don't think this one has it. For those that are interested, I have HIPAA permission to show some pictures in the future. I tried to see if I have any here. Oh, I do. Quite disgusting. Okay, I do. All right, I'm going to go into one of my favorite stories because most people think that you have to lose your limbs. This was an extreme story. It was a gentleman here in Shasta County. And he was a good friend of ours at one time, and he called us over a weekend. It was on a Sunday, and he was a preacher here, so for him to call us on a Sunday, we knew it had to be something really, really, really important. Okay? He wouldn't just do it because we all live out in western Shasta County, so for me to make a house call, that's a pretty big deal to get out that far. All right, he called me, he said, I've got a problem with my foot. I went, all right, okay. He said, I really need you to come out and see my foot. And for this person to say this on a Sunday, we knew this was an emergency. So we grabbed my medical bag, my wife and I drove out to see him. When we walked into the house, we couldn't see his foot. We couldn't see it because of the way he was sitting in his chair. But the house smelled like death. It was vile. We had to walk around the chair, and there it was, and there was his foot propped up, and it was about the size of a football. I'm not going to go into great detail because you people are eating. But I have pictures if you want to see those, but maybe not now. His foot had already gone and advanced into gangrene. It was literally, his foot was rotting off. Again, won't go into great detail, but I checked his vitals, and he'd already gone into sepsis. He was already going into septic shock. I'd say if he probably waited another 5 days, he probably wouldn't be with us today. Would you agree? I agree. It was pretty bad. I've never seen a wound so bad. What happened? Well, he told me 2 months prior to that, he stepped on a nail. Okay? There was a little tack that was out in the backyard. And he ignored it. And he ignored it. And he ignored it. Until finally his wife got so upset with him for ignoring it, she had him call us. We went out. Again, I'm not going to go into great detail here, but it was the worst I've ever seen. I took his vitals. He was in sepsis. He was dying. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go ahead and get you into Mercy? To go ahead and get you right in? He went, no. I said, okay. And he said 2 reasons why you won't go to Mercy. Not that there's anything about that. He said, one, he's the pastor of a little church that is actually under this Christian umbrella organization that funds little churches in the rural communities, so people have somewhere to go. He said, we're in between insurance policies, so I have no insurance whatsoever for about another month or 2. And he knew that going to the hospital, this is probably going to be about $75,000 to $100,000 to take care of. The foot was literally rotting off. He said, the second reason is, he said, I know when I go there, they're going to take my foot. I said, yeah, they probably will. He said, this happened to a friend of mine. I don't want to lose my foot. I said, all right. I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, I want you to take care of it. I said, okie dokie. I said, I will do that. And this is one of the few times I really, some people might differ, but this is one of the few times I got really, 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 really bossy. And I said, if you're going to have me do this, then you are going to do everything I tell you to do. All right? I said, you are not going to preach for 3 months. You are not. Fortunately, where he's at, the house is on the grounds of the church. And he has lots of deacons. I said, I will write you a medical release, because you think God is his boss, but no, it was a company, a Christian organization. I had to write a medical release to have him off work for 3 months, which we did. I said, you cannot get on that foot for 3 months. You will have to take everything I give you. You will have to eat this way. You'll have to do this and this. That man did it. We get a lot of patients that come in and they fight and they fight and they fight and they fight, sometimes until they die, because they just will not change their diets. All right, he did. Not only did he change his diet, but I didn't tell you this. Why did his foot rot off like that? Well, while I was there, okay, so you guys will understand this, while I was there, figuratively, I kept having this little tapping in my head saying, check the blood sugar. And I'm going, I'm busy. Check the blood sugar. So finally I looked at him and I said, do you have a blood sugar problem? He said, well, as a matter of fact, about a year ago they told me I was pre-diabetic. I said, can I check your blood sugar? Because I keep all my kids with me in my medical bag. He said, yeah, sure, go ahead. Okay. You're not supposed to have, in theory, your blood sugar is not supposed to be above a 99. All right? I mean, we sneeze at 105, but you're not. His was 300. Okay. So I said, you're not pre-diabetic, you're diabetic. And I said, this is why your foot is running off, because you're not taking care of yourself. He was overweight, ate terrible, blah, blah. So not only did he eat well during this whole process and behave, but we had him on so many holistic medications. I think it would be easy to say he was on hundreds hundreds of pills a day. We had him on more pills than to this day, except for maybe my wife, that I have ever put anyone ever on before. He was I had patients that complained about 12 pills a day. He was on, I'd say, you know, I'd say he was probably on 200 to 300 pills a day, easy. And he did it without a single complaint. I was so proud of this man. Anyway, we have a medication called BF&C. It's Dr. Christopher's, and it stands for bone, flesh, and cartilage. It's not made of bone, flesh, and cartilage. It's for bone, flesh, and cartilage. It is a miracle healer. Actually, like I said, for those who want, I've got some pictures up here you can see afterwards. He did it religiously, consistently, and I said 3 months, it had to be all work. Well, because I couldn't have him up on his feet, I had to continue to make house calls, and I visited him once a week for several weeks, because he was kind of on our way home. And every week, within about a week, all the sepsis was gone, he was doing much better. All right, the infection was incredibly massive, what it did. But each week he got better and better. Finally got to be where I only saw him about every 2 weeks. Then I got to be where I was seeing him about once a month. After about 3 months, I saw him and I said, okay, at the 3-month mark, I said, you're doing great. We'll peel you a little bit off of some of the meds. And I released him back to work as long as he used a crutch. All right, so far so good. Again, saw him again about another month. And then we were about 4.5 months in. It was about 2 weeks since I'd seen him. And his wife came into the clinic, and this was so very cool. His wife came into the clinic, and she said, I just want to bring you a picture of the latest, what his foot's looking like. Okay, and it's actually in here. And I looked at it, and I said, it's almost completely healed up. I said, use up the rest of the meds he's done, which he had about 2 weeks left. So that ended up being about 5 months of hard work. Okay, I said, okay, about 2 weeks, just use up the rest, he's done. We're over with, we're cool. She said, well, I have something else to tell you. So the human body has an amazing mechanism for healing. Given the opportunity, the body will heal. God put this wonderful blueprint in you, that if you give the body what it needs, it will heal. Okay, well, she said, something we didn't tell you about with this individual. I said, oh? Because remember, I gave him a formula called BF&C. That was one of many. But I put him on the highest dosage I have ever put anyone on. Okay, it's meant to heal bone, flesh, and cartilage. Well, part of the reason this individual was so overweight was because of something that happened to him, and I didn't know about it. She said, oh, by the way, when so-and-so was in his 20s, he used to like to weightlift a lot. And he's a very tall man. Okay? 6 foot something, easy. So he used to be a weightlifter, but obviously he was not being spotted correctly. In his 20s, literally crushed a couple of vertebrae in his back. So from then on, no more weightlifting. And I guess, he gained more and more weight because you're less mobile. She said, just to let you know, he is weightlifting again. And this is in his 50s. This is only about 3 years ago. We gave him so much that the body, after it was done with his foot, it used some for his back. In his back was completely healed up, and he's weightlifting again. Not that I approve of it because it's not healthy for you, but I'm glad that he could. So it was an added miracle we weren't expecting. Well, so 5 months went by, he's all healed, life is good. It was then that summer he came into the clinic, and this was just one of those little joys that you get that makes it all worthwhile. He came into the clinic to go pick up something, and I looked down and I said, oh, 2 tennis shoes, 2 feet. So he would have lost his foot, and it's under standard care. It doesn't have to be that way. I've had multiple patients with their feet and their toes because of diabetes. Every one of them have come in with gangrene, and every one of them healed. It can be done, but you have to take the responsibility to be a part of it. All right, so that was that one.
I'll interrupt just for a moment. We want to say grace. Everybody's eating, and our custom here is to say grace, all right? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this food, and we ask your blessing upon it for our health and our strength. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. And if you'll let me just one thing on temperance, Our understanding of temperance is the total abstinence of anything that's harmful, and only the moderate use of that which is good.
All right. Okay, so my next story. This is one of my favorites. Her sister's in here. Okay, this is a patient that I have got to say is one of the patients I have been most proud of in my almost 20 years of practice. She came into the clinic, this is just over 2 years ago. And when she originally came into us, she came in with psoriasis. We treat it, it's an autoimmune. Don't let anybody tell you psoriasis can't be cured. They'll tell you autoimmune diseases cannot be cured. They absolutely can. We've seen MS, muscular dystrophy, we've seen them. There's no such thing as an incurable disease. All right, well, she came in with psoriasis. She had some on her arms and legs. All right, I said, okay, for us that's boring. We can work with it, no problem. But then she said something else towards the end of her appointment. She said, oh, by the way, before we leave, she was there with her husband. Would you check this right here? There was a little lump right here. She said, I had my other doctor look at it, and they poked it. Didn't do anything else, they poked it and said, oh, that's just fatty tissue. She said, I just don't feel right about it. I have a tendency to trust patients in their own skin. You may be right, you may be wrong, but we have to give you the benefit of the doubt, because usually patients' instincts are close enough to where they're, even if they don't know what's wrong, they know something's wrong. So I said, okay, so before the end of her appointment, I said, let's go in the exam room. So we all went in there. As soon as I touched it, I knew what it was. I've been around a lot of cancer, an awful lot of cancer with the center. And as soon as I touched it, I knew exactly what it felt like. But, you know, you're supposed to keep this poker face. So I said, all right, let's just go ahead and ultrasound. In our clinic, we try to be a full function. We have EKG, we have ultrasound, we have all that. So I ultrasounded it. And now I'm not really happy, okay, because I know this does not look right. And basically her whole abdominal cavity was just full of this. I said, okay, now she can see I'm not so much poker face anymore. Now I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. I said, tell you what, I don't know, but I'm not happy. And I said, let's go ahead and order some blood tests, just to see. And the blood test came back really, really bad. We ended up with an MRI just to verify how far it had gone, but she had basically colon cancer at this point. And it was extremely advanced. It ended up being, anyway, after I did that, I gave her all the paperwork. She ran back to her other doctor, slightly annoyed, not a happy person. She ran back there. When they saw my lab work, they freaked out, reordered all the same lab work. Oh my gosh, she has cancer. They finally figured it out. And of course, they're probably afraid of lawsuits because they had touched her and said, oh, there's no problem. So, got to keep in mind, she'd already lost 2 months by this point of us going through all this process, and her other doctors going through this process, so she'd already lost 2 months of possible treatment. So, they put the fear in her and said, oh, we've got to do surgery, we've got to do chemo, we've got to do radiation. And she wanted, when we have cancer patients at the clinic, we offer them multiple avenues. You can come to us and we'll do everything. We don't do the chemo radiation, but we do everything. In other words, our program would be their only program. Or we say, if you want to go do surgery, that's fine, and we'll take you back. But if you do chemo or radiation, we will not work with you. Okay, because most of the time, in fact, we've never seen a patient die of the cancer. We've always seen them die of the chemo or radiation. Never yet to this day have I seen a patient die of cancer. They die of the chemo or the radiation instead. All right, so she wanted to stay with us completely, but her husband loves her, and he was afraid for her, so they decided to go for surgery. Right, so they went in, they pulled some of the tumors out, and basically closed her back up. They said the only thing that they could do for her was to just, it's a drastic thing, is just to flush them with chemo, basically, leave her open on the table and make a big old pool of chemo in her abdominal area. Well, she's a Jehovah's Witness. In Jehovah's Witness, you can't do blood transfusions. So that wasn't going to work, because you had to have massive blood transfusions during the surgery. They told her, you don't do this, you die. That's just it, because it's the kind of cancer, you don't live with, 20, 30 years, you die in 6 months or so. She said no. So they came back, I re-ultrasounded her, she still had a lot of masses in there. And at that point now, they'd staged her at stage 4. So she said, I'm ready, let's go. And so we started working on her. So remember, the original discussion was December, it was now April of that year. Okay, so she lost a lot of time. We started working with her, and again, she's one of those blessed patients that we have, where she did everything I asked her to do. The amount of trust that some patients put in me is very humbling to do that. That's because all I'm doing is practicing. Remember, it's called a practice. we're just like anybody else. We're practicing doing our best. But it was very humbling. She became a very significant raw vegan. She went vegan immediately. She went massive raw in a very quick period of time. And the months went by. We generally have them come back in once a month. We kept running blood tests. And we ran them at the beginning. After the surgery, they were sky high. And as we continued the treatments, they just kept dropping. The masses kept shrinking. Until finally, it took about a year, because this was a very serious case. It took about a year. And after a year, I ultrasounded her for one of her appointments. I couldn't find anything. Couldn't find anything significant at all. So I said, okay, I don't want to be pie in the sky here. Let's go ahead. As much as I don't like them, there are values in certain things. Okay, I don't like X-rays, I don't like MRIs, but I'm not stupid either. I'm a very lab kind of guy. While a patient might tell me they feel better, proof's in the pudding. And I want the patients to see that they're getting better. So we went ahead and got an MRI. And the MRI only found one tiny little spot. They said, we're not even sure what that is anymore. All right. So to this day, she still continues with the treatments, though now we're pretty much about done. Her labs look great. There's really nothing left. They did some more testing, found no metastasis, so they went from stage 4 to 0. We're very, very, very proud of her. She's a wonderful lady, and I've talked to her over and over again to be a health advocate. Because when somebody survives something like that and they do it naturally, what a person to talk to. And she has offered that when need be, she will share her story with others. So, very blessed. So, okay. Oh, by the way, her psoriasis is all clearing up too. So, it was a nice side effect. We tell patients that if you have to do a cancer or Lyme, and I mean this, if you have to do something as significant as a cancer or Lyme program with us, whatever else you have is going to go away. All right, because you're going to heal the body from the inside out. And one of the hardest things for cancer patients to hear is that even with our program, you will get better before you get worse. I mean, I'm sorry, you will get worse before you get better. You will. Sorry about that. Yeah, you're doing it. You will get worse before you get better. And a lot of them can't understand that. There was a patient with Dr. Christopher. This is not mine. She came in with cancer, and her whole family had told her, no, we got to do all the conventional, that kind of thing, modern, Western. And she said, no, I think I'm going to go with this guy over here, Dr. Christopher. And he said, all right, and he treated her and treated her and treated her. And she got worse and worse and worse, and she kept losing more and more and more. And we tell our cancer patients, the more serious your cancer, the more weight loss you're going to have. If this is a temple, then we basically have to build it from the ground back up again. Because cancer is a systemic failure of the immune system. I had a patient come into the clinic a couple of years ago, and she said, other than cancer, I'm healthy. I went, no, you're not. She said, no, my doctor told me you can be healthy and have cancer. That is not the case. If you have cancer, you are not healthy. All right. So the body had to be built from the ground back up, and she looked basically, by the time her family started really intervening, she looked like somebody out of Auschwitz. She looked horrible. And her family actually was literally getting ready to file legal suit to take over her medical care, to basically institutionalize her and take her away. And Dr. Christopher, she'd go to him, and again, this is where you get really humbled by the trust. Went to Dr. Christopher, and he told her, it's okay. This will pass. And sure enough, she literally turned a corner one day, and she started plumping up. She started turning pink. And they ran some tests, and the cancer was gone. So it might look really bad, but it is. I had a patient years ago. She did not continue to finish our cancer program. She said, your cancer program is messy. And I said, cancer's messy, and it's going to take time. Out of 10 patients that will come to our clinic with cancer, 7 of them I will never see again after the first visit. People think that you can cure cancer and still get to live the way you were, the way you lived before. You're there because of the way you lived. And it's a hard fact for a lot of people to learn. This is really fascinating. It tells you something about the educational system in this country when it comes to nutrition. The JAMA, the Journal for the American Medical Association, they did a survey, a one-question survey. It was only for MDs that are in the AMA, who have cancer patients, and who have cancer patients that are in remission. Remember, they don't call it cure, because they know it's only in remission. And it was a one-question poll. You as a doctor were to ask your patient in remission. All right, you survived cancer. Survived. Okay, you're in remission. Should be a life-affirming event, should be something to cause you to change your priorities and get your perspective in order, right? You think so, right? Shit's scary enough. Did you, having survived to this point cancer, did you change your lifestyle, dietary, anything? Did you change anything of your lifestyle whatsoever? Even the AMA was stunned at the results. 90% of the respondents said they didn't change one thing about their life. Hence the reason in the United States the average return rate is 5 years. That's right. So, and then if it happens after 5 years, it's a different cancer. All right. So let's go on to the next one. I'm going to talk about my favorite patient of all, my wife. Okay. All right. I can say her name, Peggy. All right. She is my naturopathic poster child. She has given me more practice than anyone else. You're okay with this, right? All right. When we first got married, she loved me. Absolutely loved me. Not sure why she did. But she didn't trust me. Okay. And that is not a fault. Where she came from, they don't know too much about naturopathic medicine. They're basically indoctrinated MD, 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 MD. That's all you're supposed to do. Well, in the very early stages of our marriage, she was on 92 prescription pills a week, plus monthly hip injections. So 92 prescription pills a week, plus monthly hip injections. And I kept going, babe, when you're ready, we'll be more than happy. Because we had a clinic, okay, around that time. And I said, when you're ready, I will treat you. Well, what were her problems? Okay, not that she didn't trust me. What were her problems? She had 3 main issues. This is back in Alabama. And what they call allergies here, don't even compare to Alabama. Because Alabama has so much humidity and therefore so much mold and pollen in the air that the allergies there are really quite phenomenal. I remember there would be nights she would sit up in bed just drowning from trying to breathe. All right, so that was one. The second one, periods. Horrendous periods. She had period at 16. By the time she let me treat her, she was 36. So that's 20 years of these periods that were like clockwork every 28 days. She was basically on the floor in a fetal position every 28 days. She didn't have endometriosis, didn't have ovarian cysts. It's just her hormones, which is incredibly common in this day. Her hormones were so far out of whack that every time that period came around, they were mind-boggling painful. Some of the worst I've ever seen. Go to all-night clinics, ERs. It was horrendous. And her third problem was Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism. All right? They'll tell you that that is incurable. Okay, my wife has long hair, so that must tell you something about Hashimoto's. All right. So I kept telling her over the years, when you're ready, I will be happy to treat you. All right? No. She had another MD. Well, where our clinic was, we were next to a little pharmacy we worked with, and right down the walkway was where her MD was. And I would think that a female MD to a female patient, you would expect more compassion. But I've actually not seen that. My wife walked in there one day. I was in the clinic. She was at her MD down the walkway. She walked in. She'd been with this one for about 2 years. Walked in and she said, nothing you're doing is helping me. She said, my allergies are horrible, my periods are horrible, because they had her on everything, birth control pills, it was just the full gambit. And so her MD looked at her and said, well, I give up. Okay, you're 36, you don't need those parts anymore. So she literally took out her appointment book and started scheduling my wife for a full hysterectomy the next week. The next week, right? Okay, there are over 200,000 hysterectomies in the United States alone. And I would be willing to bet you about 0 of them are necessary. We have never had a patient that had to have a hysterectomy if they chose to stay with birth. I'm not tooting my horn, this is God's. I'm just the messenger. All right, so my wife had been with me long enough to know that's not a good thing. And she'd watched what her mother in her elderly years, what happened from her hysterectomy. So she kind of did the colloquial, back out of the office, come down the walkway. Came into the clinic, came back into my office. I was in between patients, and she had one word for me. Fine. And it was like, oh, okay, we can get started. Wonderful. All right. I generally, when I have patients with multiple issues, I generally don't treat but one or two at a time. Because it's just too overwhelming, too many protocols, too many pills, blah, blah. All right, so with my wife, it was actually pretty easy. They were both one was really acute, one was very chronic. We started working on the allergies and working on the periods right off the bat. Within a week, her allergies were getting better. She was improving, okay? Well, 28 days rolls by. Here comes the first period on the program. All right, still hurt like crazy, but not as much. There was a slight improvement, correct? Slight improvement. Most female programs, generally, depending on the severity, but most last about 3 months, about 90 days. We like to go through 3 periods. All right, and I always let the woman define what is normal. All right, so by her 3rd period, she told me the first time in her life she'd had a normal period. All right, other than the slight discomfort and inconvenience, she was happy as could be. So within the 3-month period of time, she was from 92 prescription pills a week and monthly hip injections to no hip injections and 7 pills a week. Synthroid, 1 pill a day for the rest of her life for the Hashimoto's. Okay, let me give you a little clue about Hashimoto's, and then we'll tell you about that. I'd be willing to say that about probably 9 out of 10 cases of women who come into the clinic and say they have hypothyroidism do not have hypothyroidism. It's one of the most overly and most commonly diagnosed disorders in the United States. So many women come in with a blood test that says, oh, I've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and I have to take Synthroid or Levo or something like that for the rest of my life. And I go, okay, you might be one of the ones that lost the lottery and actually had it. My wife actually had Hashimoto's. It runs in her family. But 9 out of 10 women that come in there do not have Hashimoto's. Because 9 out of 10 times, the wrong blood tests were run. It's really sad to me that we all have to go to med school. We all go to the same med schools. And we all take a course called blood chemistry and analysis that teaches us as doctors how to read blood tests, how to order them, when to order them. I don't know what happens to so many doctors, and don't get me wrong, NDs can be just as bad. How many come out of med school and forget how to order blood tests? I've had so many, when I'm trying to work with other MDs, and this one common thing I get is when they come back and they go, oh, I meaning them, oh, I don't know how to read that. It stuns me that they can't read blood tests. Therefore, they don't order the right ones. And 9 out of 10 times when we reorder the blood test, they never had Hashimoto's, never had it. I had a woman that came into the clinic years and years ago. She'd been on Synthroid for 8 years. And she actually brought me this is kind of interesting, she brought me her journal of Synthroid doses each year and her TSH that they monitored with. And I looked at this and I went, my gosh, they're not dialing you in. Every year it was up and down, up and down, up and down. She said, yeah, it's really starting to tick me off that they can't dial me in and just keep it there. Okay, because then their hair falls out and things don't, Okay. So I said, do you by chance have any blood tests? She said, yes, I have 9 blood tests. One from year 0 up to today. I said, would you bring them in? She literally went home, grabbed them, brought them right back. Unfortunately, I had a break when she brought them back. I looked at the original blood test. She never had Hashimoto's. She never had hypothyroidism. So she'd been taking drugs for the past 8 years for nothing. Most of the time that you're diagnosed with Hashimoto's, it is actually not hypothyroidism, but hypoadrenia. Low adrenals. Your adrenals are shot. Most people know the term adrenal fatigue. Hey, you're shot. This country is probably, next to Japan, this is one of the most stressed out countries on earth. Your thyroid, in order to function properly, requires the adrenals. If the adrenals don't work, then the thyroid gets pulled down and it looks hypo, but it's not. You have to run the right blood test. And sure enough, when they come in there, we start treating the adrenals, and oh my gosh, the very thing that's supposed to be incurable goes away. All right, well, my wife, she had true Hashimoto's, absolutely, in a really bad case because it runs in the family. her mother had it. So I said, okay, so now it's been 3 months. I said, you ready to treat that? She said, let's go. Okay, all ready, gun pile down to do it. Okay, now she loved and trusted me. So it took real Hashimoto's takes some time, and it took another 3 months of treatments. All right, so now here we are 6 months in. She's on 0 pills, 0 shots. Her hair is growing in beautiful. Her nails got stronger. Weight control was much better. Fatigue was much better. So this was umpteenth years ago before I could order blood tests. She said, I'm going to go back to my old doctor to get all my blood tests run. Let's see what it looks like. Because I love proof. Because so many times a doctor will say, another doctor will go, oh, well, they must never have had it. Oh, no. We got proof that they had it. So she went back, and I was not there at the appointment because that other doctor did not like me very much. So it was just my wife and the other doctor in the appointment. And they went through all her blood tests. Allergies looked great. Her estrogen, progesterone, testosterone for her hormones were perfectly in balance. And her thyroid was functioning beautifully. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the other doctor looked at my wife and went, oh, I guess I cured you. Correct? So my wife left there and never walked back in again. Okay? There was a benefit to curing, for her having her, for example, her hormones cured at 36. Okay, because now let's go forward about 18 years. Then she was about 53, 54. And we're sitting on the couch. I remember this night very, very clearly. I don't know if you do. But we're sitting on the couch watching TV. And she looks over at me and she goes, I've not had a period in about 3 months. I went, you've not had a period in about 3 months. That was it. That was menopause. Menopause, okay, maybe this is from a male point of view. Menopause to me is God's gift saying, you paid your dues, you did your time. Now, it's time to be free, okay? Nothing should have to change. Nothing should change. Libido, vaginal issues, none of this has to change. And nothing did. She just went from having periods to not having periods. So, she didn't end up in a tower shooting people. She still my Peggy. Let's talk about a subject that's also near and dear to me, and that is autism. Okay, I don't mean to offend anybody in here because some people have very strong feelings one way or another for vaccines. I have very strong feelings anti-vaccine. I know some people are very pro-vaccine. You have to walk the path you do. But the good news, if it's good news, is the CDC has now admitted that autism is caused by vaccines. And the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, who for years and years and years said autism is not caused by vaccines, now posts it. Okay, when you go through med school, even with ours, we had to go through pharmacology and learn to do drugs. A lot of NDs out there will prescribe drugs. I will not prescribe drugs. But you still have to learn about it. And one of the things you learn in pharmacology is that there's a thing called a package insert. It's a little paper or a book, depending on problems, that goes in with every prescription that says, these are the side effects and the adverse effects to this drug. By law, you are supposed to either be given that material or explain the contents of it. Most of the time, that law is not being upheld. Most people are not given the side effects and adverse effects to what they're being given. All right, well, FDA.gov now lists the package inserts for all drugs. You have to know how to bore into that site to get to it, but you can't. And if you go to FDA.gov and you go to the one on DTaP, for example, the DTaP vaccine, if you drill down there far enough, you'll get the package insert. And what is on that package insert? Autism. It is on there. So even they admit it. Hence the reason that the government, federal government, has a fund to pay parents whose children have been damaged by vaccines. And to this date, they paid out about $3.5 billion to parents who've been damaged. Well, I had a wonderful little boy who's about 10 years old, came into the clinic, and he had autism. Okay, he wasn't severe, he was still functional, but it was there. He could not concentrate, his grades were suffering, he just had a hard time with it. So I told the mom, we treat it quite a bit. So I told her, I said, here's the sad news for him. He's going to have to change his diet. It's hard to get a child to even go vegetarian unless you got really good parental support. But I said, one of the most important things you must do is take him off any form of dairy. Any form of dairy must be removed. I don't care whether it's cheese, milk, butter, I don't care. And the more meat you can take off, the better. Well, this little boy, his face just fell to the floor. Because he said, no cheese pizzas. That was a big thing for him. And I went, oh, contraire. I said, there are alternatives. Because I'm not just a doctor, I'm also a certified nutritionist. And with our patients, anything about nutrition is free. We flood our patients with menu plans, nutritional charts, recipes, because our meds don't work, their meds don't work if you don't feed the body correctly. So what we will often do for children, we haven't done it in a while, but it's been offered again, is we'll throw you a little pizza party. It's all for free. I wasn't a part of it, but the staff was. And we said, Mom, bring him back to some of his friends, and we threw him a pizza party. It was completely vegan. There was vegan ice cream and vegan pizzas and macaroni and cheese. There were other snacks and meals. We wanted to show him, you can do this. When he left, he had pizzas under his arms. He was happy to go out. He was ready. He was happy to do it, and which made it easier for his mom to support him and do this. It was about 4 or 5 months down the road. We were seeing him once a month. He was getting better, getting better. We had him on the holistic meds that helped with the brain chemistry and repair. But the biggest thing was the diet. After, I think it was 4 or 5 months, one of the most beautiful blessings I've ever had is when they came in for their last time. He was sharp as a tack. He was doing wonderful. Mom gave me a hug and said, thank you for getting me my boy back. Okay, again, that's not me. I'm just the messenger. So nothing is incurable. All right, nothing is. All right, let's go to something that is near and dear to everyone's heart, even if they don't know about it. And that is Candida. How many in here actually know about Candida? Oh, yeah. You guys are all. Okay, you said yes? All right, okay. For those that don't know, Candida, okay, and patients despise me over this. When they come in, I already have the reputation. They come in going, I know what you're going to tell me to do. Because all the patients that come in with chronic conditions, I don't care if it's a chronic hangnail, you're going to do a Candida cleanse. Everyone that comes in with a chronic condition must do a Candida cleanse or I will not treat them. Because this right here is 70% of your immune system. This microflora right here, 70% of your immune system. Even an MD, and MDs are really bad at this, but they're getting better, okay, because they're not educated enough on this. But one MD, she wrote an article in a peer-reviewed medical journal sometime last year, and even she said that 70% of her patients that come through the door, the new ones, come in with Candida. Why? Because of antibiotics. Okay, antibiotics kill out the bacteria that keeps your yeast in check. You're all supposed to have a little bit of yeast because it's important. It breaks down sugar and alcohol, even free sugar. We're only supposed to have a little. But in America, we're only supposed to have a little sugar, a little alcohol. But it's reversed here. They have a ton of sugar, a ton of alcohol. And it feeds the Candida. This is 70% immune system. This has to be fixed first. All right, so we'll have patients that come in with multiple issues. And we go, before we ever treat those, as long as they're not emergency or serious acute, we put them aside. We have an 18-day program. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just trying to tell you how important Candida is. It's an 18-day program. You get that done, then we'll start treating your other issues. Because invariably, you get that fixed first. They have a tendency to heal much, much faster. Plus, it's a whole lot less expensive in the long run because you're not paying for an even longer program. So I'm going to tell you a miracle of a patient that happened with me, and this is a very Jerry Lewis telethon type thing, totally incurable. Okay, I've never had a case like this before. I've seen lots of autoimmunes cured, like I said, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, on and on. But this was one that was really quite amazing. Woman came into the clinic years ago, and she had polygynia rheumatica. Okay, it's a autoimmune in the same family, neuromuscular family as MS, muscular dystrophy. Now in this case, you attack your own muscles. And most people with polygynia rheumatica end up being quite obese because just moving hurts so much that all they want to do is just sit and eat because food becomes a comfort. I understand that, absolutely. So they'll tell you it is absolutely incurable. They will put you on higher and higher doses of prednisone and Imuran and things of that nature. So she came in and I always ask patients, please bring me in your past records, because sometimes, often, we can see a misdiagnosis. Well, no, she truly had it. She did have this, it was correct and treated for years, just to maintain it where she wasn't in too much pain. I said, all right, we'll go ahead and put together a program for you, and I'll get it to you, I'll get you the information. Before she got up, she went, oh, Doc, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I have candida. I went, oh? Okay, this is before I had it mandatory that I treated patients with. I said, okay, tell me why you think you did. Oh, she had it. There was no need for testing, there was no need. She was rampant with candida. Okay, so I said, all right. I said, my preference is, you're not going to die of polygyny anytime soon. You know, long time. Let's go ahead and get rid of the candida first, then we'll treat the polygyny. Remember this, 70% of the immune system resides right here. And what is polygyny rheumatic and MS and all those? They're autoimmune diseases, immune, remember that. So, we instructed her, dispensed the meds, off she went. I didn't hear from her for 18 days, because one of the things we do is all patients get my email, because we want them to have access to us 7 days a week. They can email me, because I want them to be successful. Okay, I didn't hear from her for 18 days, so that sounded good, all right? She came in for her follow-up right after 18 days, and I went, well, how did you do? Because it can be rough, it can be hard, it's a good detox. She said, well, I did great. I said, good. She said, oh, by the way, because remember, 18 days, which is 2 weeks and 4 days. She said, by the way, Don, 2 weeks into the cleanse, all my pain went away. I went, oh? She said, now, most autoimmune conditions can take easily 9 months to a year. We look for cures, we don't look for remission. We look for you to get better, and we get to tell you to go away. All right, so 9 months to a year. So she said, I feel great. I said, tell you what, you're going to start eating things that maybe you shouldn't. You know, we try to instruct you all. Let's just do the polygyny rheumatic program for 1 month, just one. We'll put you on the normal meds for that program, and we'll watch you. Come back in a month, tell us what, a free monthly follow-up, tell us, okay? Well, a month went by, I didn't hear from her. She came in for an appointment. It's like, okay, I didn't hear from you again. That's good news. And I'm going to tell you, body language and verbally, this is how the appointment went. I went, how are you feeling? She went, I feel great. I went, go away. That was it. What is Jerry Lewis telethon, and I mean that out of respect, something that is incurable, that takes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to find a cure for. She was over in 18 days. That's not a normal case, but it shows you how insidious candida can be. So just kind of wanted to pop that little message in there that most Americans get it, because most Americans, all it takes is one time having an antibiotic, and you'll have it. Okay, one more autoimmune. What time do we stop here?
6.
6? Okay, I'm pretty good, right?
You're good.
Okay, here's another autoimmune disease that was really quite amazing. I had just graduated from my first med school, just graduated from it, and I hadn't even opened up my very first clinic yet. In fact, we didn't know what we were going to do yet. And we had a CPA for our taxes. And so I took all my school transcripts, not transcripts, but school bills, and give it to the CPA and said, get me whatever tax breaks you can get for spending all this money. Well, there were none. You don't get breaks for learning. So there were no tax breaks. But it was a blessing, because all my paperwork went across the secretary's desk. Her name was Mary, all right? Unbeknownst to me, she had a very serious condition. She called after she saw the paperwork and she said, will you please help me? I went, I just graduated, but what's the problem? She had, see, it's a wonderful word, had. She had MG, myasthenia gravis. I don't know if anybody's really heard of that. It's one of the lesser known neuromuscular diseases. Again, falls in the same family as MS. Myasthenia gravis is really quite devastating. Whereas you slowly dying or become incapacitated with MS, muscular dystrophy, myasthenia gravis, you can die at a moment's notice. What happens is, on the surface of all of your muscles are little tiny cells called muscle receptors. And then you have on your nerves and muscles actually don't touch. There's a little gap. When you think move, your nerve showers a bunch of chemicals that touches the muscle, hits the receptors, and it tells the muscle to do its thing. Well, in myasthenia gravis, you're destroying your own muscle receptors. So when you say think, when you think move, it doesn't always move. And for some reason, while it can attack any muscle group, the two most common are your facial muscles and your diaphragm. So you can get what's called a MG crisis, which means at any moment, all of a sudden you go, I can't breathe. Sometimes you reboot, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just suffocate and die. Moment's notice, it just happens where all of a sudden I can't take a breath and it doesn't start back up again. All right, that can happen. So I said, all right, you know what? I actually knew what to do. Never done it before, but I knew what to do. So our very first clinic we ever opened was for Mary. We had to have a legal umbrella with which to treat her, right? So we opened a clinic just for Mary, and kept it open after that. Mary came in. It was really sad. Right here is your thymus. Your thymus is one of the master immune glands. Well, she came in, she says, I have to show you this. Pulled it out. From here to here was this gigantic scar. They had removed her thymus gland. The theory was, well, your immune system's going crazy, let's remove the master gland and that'll calm you down. Right? It didn't work. Okay. The standard rule of thumb out there is an autoimmune disease means your immune system's going crazy. We don't say that. We say your immune system's actually working the way it's supposed to. On the surface of every cell in your body, there's a little flag. It's a little protein marker, but it's a little flag. It's telling the immune system, it's me, don't eat me. I'm part of you. Wow. Well, in every person that has an autoimmune, whether it's MG or MS or muscular dystrophy or lupus, type 1 diabetes, it's all the same disease. It's just a different group of cells that have a problem. Everyone on earth is born with some genetic weaknesses, and so in that part of the body where that weakness is, those cells have a harder time to push toxins off. So they end up getting the toxins, they end up getting damaged, and that little flag is gone. The cell's still trying its best, but the flag is gone. So the immune system, rightfully so, oh, that's not me, starts taking it out. Like in type 1 diabetes, it's your beta cells that make the insulin. When they've lost their little flags, the immune system goes, oh, that's not me. And when 80% of them have been destroyed by the immune system, you have type 1 diabetes. So our job is to help you start regrowing happy cells with happy little flags on them again. So her thymus had been removed. They went, oops, that didn't work. So then they told her you'll be on prednisone and Imuran and these immune suppressants for the rest of your life. Of course, and they'll tell you at the same time, hopefully, oh, by the way, you're now susceptible to every other disease out there. You know, cancer, fungal, bacterial, viral, because they're purposely suppressing your immune system. So I said, all right, so we started treating her. My very first patient ever, and happens to be a lethal one that could die on me at any moment. All right, so you go forth with faith. Okay, that's why I love that trust at the end there. All right, 9 months. It took 9 months, but that girl threw herself into the program. She was only 36 years old. She said, I don't want to live the rest of my life not only taking these drugs that are bad on my liver, but at any moment, I could fall over dead with no notice whatsoever. So she did everything we asked her to do. She took the meds, she changed her diet, boom, went vegan. Just was absolutely wonderful. And in 9 months, she was off the prednisone, off the Imuran. Blood test showed no signs of MG anymore. Everything was functioning perfectly. Told her to go away. We kept the clinic going for a couple more years before we moved out west, out to the California area. Well, as it would be, little miracles have a way of cropping up just to teach you lessons. 7 years went by, and we got a notice from the IRS that there was a boo-boo on our tax return. The $200 error had ballooned to $600. So, but it happened at the time that CPA was running our taxes. So we got on the horn and said, please fix this. You're the one that messed it up. Okay? But when I called, who answered the phone? Mary. Okay? And we're very informal. We tell patients, call me what you want. I'll call me for dinner. You can call me what you want. Most people just say doc because my name's pretty hard. But we were first name basis. She went, Iredell. I went, Mary. 7 years. And I said, how are you doing? And she said, it never came back. So don't ever accept that there's an expiration date on the bottom of your foot. All right.
Did you have to pay the $600?
Yes, we did. Actually, we did. Yes, we still got burned for it. That's a whole other story. We paid. Okay, a couple more stories real quickly for you. And I also, if you guys would like, I'm more than happy. I love doing it. I also love question and answer. So if you guys are interested in asking questions when I'm done, I will be happy to do that. Okay, another one. I'm trying to give you stories to give you hope, and I'm also trying to let you know how sometimes the simplest of problems, root problems, can cause some of the most devastating of disorders. All right. One of the most common disorders here, and Christy sure knows about this because of the amount of patients we get coming in there, are parasites. All right. Even the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, we don't get along very well, but we do agree on a couple of things. And even they said that 1 out of 6 Americans have parasites. Yeah, little worms and bugs in the gut. Not the good bugs, but the other ones. All right, I personally think that that's a little conservative. I think it's more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if 1 out of 6 Americans have it, then why is it that 1 out of 6 that we test for don't have it? Okay, now granted, I'm picking those that I think have it, so maybe that raises the odds a bit. All right, well, here's a gentleman that came in about 3 years ago, and he came in with massive gastrointestinal issues. Wait, I want to talk about diverticulitis too in just a moment. You made me think of it. Okay, he came in with massive issues, and no other doctor had helped him. It just wasn't getting any better. And I said, well, have you been out of the country lately? Yes, because he's had this for 3 months. Well, I said, what did you do 3 months ago? Because that is one of the things about naturopathic medicine. As a naturopath, it is actually part of the medical code of ethics. It's our job to get to the root cause. I've actually had MDs come to me very ticked off, not at us, but at their med schools, going, why did I go through med school and no one ever taught me to deal with chronic conditions? MDs in general, and they'll admit it, do not know how to cure chronic diseases. They're taught how to write prescriptions for them, but not how to cure them. And so I've actually seen a couple of MDs go to naturopathic school because they want, I need to cover all the bases. All right, so my wife was asked one time, a patient came back up front and said, is it easy to be a naturopath and an MD? My wife went, no, because she went through it with me. We have to go to regular med school, then we have to specialize in naturopathic. So none of them were figuring it out, so I said, you get to give me a present. Okay, because he had just gotten back from Mexico. And it doesn't mean you have to go to Mexico to get parasites. There's a lot of different ways to get parasites in America. He said, yeah, I was in Mexico 3 months ago, but I never left the resort. I stayed right on the resort. I said, did you eat fruits and vegetables there? He said, yeah. Not that fruits and vegetables are bad. I mean, I'm a raw vegan. But they're watered with the water. They're sprayed down, and the water has a lot of parasites in them down there. I said, well, you get to give me a present. You get to bring me back, so we have a little kit, and he brought me back a present. And then we checked it out at the clinic. It's one of the worst I've ever seen. You know, normally when I'm checking, I have to kind of check the slide around, look around. Oh, no. Very first view, this guy was massively full of parasites. So we put him on a very simple program. And in 3 weeks, they were all gone. It's that easy. The thing with parasites, the reason I'm bringing it up is they're easy to cure, but when left chronic, they can cause cancer. They can cause autoimmune conditions. They can cause so many different conditions. And for some reason, maybe because it's not fun, stool testing isn't done anywhere near enough in this country. And it's the easiest test. I have a patient bring me in a stool sample, and I can literally know if I have a break. I can know in 5 minutes. All right, and very often, that can be the root of their problems. Okay, so I had a little 9-year-old girl come in. Cutest little thing, came from England, had a beautiful little lilt in her voice. She came in, they'd been patients for years, and she came in and they were sitting, her and her dad came in, and she was sitting in one chair, he was in another. He said, tell the doc. She said, well, yesterday morning, I woke up and my bum was itching. I went, oh, okay. Well, I was thinking her bottom. In England, bum isn't bottom, it's vagina. I went, oh, your bum's itching. No, my bum is itching. So, obviously, she has a good relationship with her parents. They checked, and they found a worm in there. Okay. I said, well, tell me what's been going on lately. Well, not few weeks passed. they had found a little stray kitten. Okay, and they brought the little stray kitten in. I said, does that kitten sleep with you? And she said, yes, the kitten does. I said, because parasites come out at night. I said, what happened is, you got it from the kitten, and then as far as your bum is concerned, I said, at night, this one came out, and before it went in, it took a wrong turn. It never made it back to where it wanted to go. So, again, same case, just to prove it, she gave us a sample, we checked it, and she had parasites, and we treated her. In 3 weeks, they were all gone. So, one of the biggest clues, and so this is good for you guys, one of the biggest, most obvious symptoms of parasite infection, and usually it takes a mate to tell you, a partner of some type, telling you that if you grind or clench your teeth at night while you're sleeping, that is actually a prime symptom of parasites. And so patients will be going through all these things with me, and their husband or wife is in there, and they'll be telling me, and I'll go, and I'll look over at when I'm getting suspicious, and I'll like, do they grind their teeth at night? Yes, they do. Okay, so that actually, just for your own edification, you or someone you know grinds their teeth a lot at night. It can become because of stress, but it can also be because of parasites. In fact, it's very common here with parasites. To the diverticulitis. All right. The question was, can it be cured? Because you will be told it can't. Okay. We had a patient a couple of years back. Been a long time. He and his wife had been patients for years, and they would come in when they needed to, but generally they come and get better and go away. That's the way it should be. Well, we hadn't seen him in a couple of years, and he came in, he went, I've been misbehaving, not eating right, and I got to where I started eating pizzas and stuff again, you know, not the good pizzas. And he said, I'm starting to get, and he was in his 50s, almost 60, I guess. Yeah, about 60 years old. And he said, I'm starting to get a lot of pain down here. And so he said, they have another doctor they go to because of their insurance, because they're Medicare, and it's one of the only ones that don't take, but we have tricks for it. He had gone to him just to get a colonoscopy done. And they went, oh my, you have very serious diverticulitis, polyps, and infection. We've got to put you immediately on antibiotics. Well, these people had been with me for years, and they knew no antibiotics. Because that's a whole nother set of problems after that, your immune system. So, he said, well, I'm going to go see my other doctor, and the nurse got extremely angry with him. Said, you must take these. You are extremely sick. You must take the antibiotics. He was trying to bully him. He said, no, I'm going to go see my other doctor. Okay, and she was just furious. Well, he came over, gave me the report. I said, okay. Put him on a 60-day program for the diverticulitis. Within a week, the pain was going away. He was feeling better. 60 days. I said, let's give it 60 days because he wanted to go back and get another colonoscopy. I love these stories. Went back. After 60 days, went back, got colonoscopy again. There was nothing there to see. It was all gone. He went to the nurse and went, see? She was like, well, that's nice. Okay. So, yes, it's very curable. And if you've been eating really well for years, and if you can eat little seeds and nuts and they don't bother you, that's a really good sign. Really good sign. Okay. I want to go back to the Candida one more time on this because this was a great story. This was a patient. We have patients all over the world. This one was in Arizona. I think it was Arizona. Arizona, New Mexico. No, yeah, it was Arizona. He was in Arizona. Don't know how he'd heard about us. And he contacted us. And we will do long distance if it needs to be. I prefer to have patients local, but long distance we will, of course, do because you can't expect people to always fly out here to the great metropolis of Redding, California. I have patients that literally will come here and say, we are the only reason because there's nothing else in Redding that they really want to see. All right, but it's a beautiful area, or it should be. All right, we actually one time had a family of 5 fly from Belize. Okay, I don't know if you know where Belize is at. Way down Mexico, way down there. Okay, they family of 5 flew up to us. It was a child, and then there were basically 4 adults. Some of them were grandparents, some parents and brothers and stuff, and then the little boy. He had autism. They flew out to be with us. We set aside half a day for the family. And it was really kind of bizarre because while they were there, the adult woman and the grandmother both wanted pap smears. And I'm going, well, we do them. And I went, how bad is it in Belize? They came with other issues. But, so here's this guy in Arizona, And we did a FaceTime with him, and his problem was from his head to his feet was almost one solid rash. It was just horrendous. He'd been to doctor after doctor, dermatologist after dermatologist, biopsies, punch biopsies, blood tests, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And he'd had it for 9 months, okay? And by the time we saw him, he'd already been 3 months just sitting in a chair, because if he moved, it was just excruciating pain and itching. Okay, so it wasn't shingles, okay? I looked at it and I could see him. I pretty much knew right away what it was, but you always want to work your way through the intake. But I said, okay, tell me what happened 9 months ago. Okay, because there's always a cause. What happened 9 months ago? He said, okay, he had to think about it. He and his wife were on FaceTime. They thought about it and went, well, 9 months ago, I wanted all my mercury amalgams removed. Okay, all right. You have to be careful the dentist you go to. Most dentists do not know how to do it right. And he went and got a cheat done in Mexico. All right, what happens when you have your mercury amalgams removed? Anybody know what happens to you? Okay, mercury is a massive heavy metal. Okay, you might as well have given yourself a massive antibiotic. It will wipe out all of your bacterial flora. So it's just like you took a massive dose of an antibiotic. So I said, what you have, didn't even need to run any tests. I said, what you have is called Candida vasculitis. Women have a tendency to get it. These are really horrendous rashes that itch really bad. I always ask them, do you feel like you want to claw it off? And they go, yes. And if it gets wet or hot, is it worse? Yes. Women have a tendency to get under the breast, under the arms, in between the legs. Men have a stronger tendency to where it just ravages their arms and legs and trunks. It's just different the way it shows up. So I said, well, you have Candida vasculitis. You have a heavy metal toxicity from the teeth, the cavities being removed, the fillings. So I said, well, the first step we're going to do is a Candida cleanse. And of course they said, I knew you were going to say that. Because people don't want to do it. Oh, you have to be a vegan for 18 days. It is a special diet and it's special holistic meds. And I tell patients it's 18 days of your life. You know, you've been around for decades. 18 days you can do this. And it's actually a very nice diet. Love that lady. 18 days is not a big deal. He did it. He and his wife actually did it together. By the time the 18th day rolled around, a rash that was from here to here, there was just a little rash left on his arm, about this big. We went ahead and then did a heavy metal detox after that. The rash completely disappeared and never came back. Life is really very simple. We're the ones that complicate things. Life is very, very simple in the long run. Yes?
Do you have any patients with Crohn's disease?
One of my favorite subjects. She asked about Crohn's disease. That's another one of those incurables. Okay. Crohn's disease, it is an autoimmune. Okay, you're destroying your own tracts of your colon. They'll tell you it is incurable. Well, I had one particular story. A young lady came in, blood in her stool, massive pain. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And they had her on prednisone. They had her on all these drugs, and they weren't helping her one little bit. So the next course is surgery. Let's just cut it out. Well, fortunately, she came to us before then, and we started treating her. We have a very specific set of holistic medications that heal the lining of the colon, that soothe it, and also others that are not immunosuppressants, but immunocalmers. Okay, there's a very different subject here. To suppress the immune system can be a very bad thing to do. But an immunocalmer, we have one that calms the immune system while keeping it strong. Because what we're doing is, okay, autoimmune. We're not blaming you, immune system. We're just saying we want you to chill out a little while we try to help fix this problem, and then we'll let you be a little bit more active. And we do that. And within the first month, she was feeling better. By the time 3 months had gone by, about 90 days, she was showing very little symptoms, no more blood. It was all healing up. Okay, but it's interesting that, remember how I told you, it's up to you as the patient to take responsibility. Because I had a failure, so to speak. I had a patient come in, 30-year-old gentleman. He came in with Crohn's, and he came in and said, okay, it's going to take this and this and this. I'm not happy with it. People want to be able to literally have the cake and eat it too. Okay, well, not with Crohn's. Okay, and I said, you're going to have to do this and this and this. He was grumbling and grumbling. So we put him on what's called a 3-day cleanse. Okay, it flushes that colon out and starts to heal the liver. He didn't even make it, I think he made it to day 2. And he called us up and he said, Doc, this is bad. I'm actually going to the bathroom. I'm going to the bathroom a lot. Most people don't realize you are supposed to be having a bowel movement for every meal of the day. I've had patients that actually started having 3 bowel movements a day, and they said, what is going on? This is horrendous. I can't do this. And I go, if it goes in, it's got to come out. He started having regular bowel movements. He said, I can't do this. And he quit. On day 2, he quit. And I said, you quit if you want to, but I said, you will not, and I'm not trying to toot us. I'm saying, you go back. You're going to be on prednisone and such for the rest of your life. That's fine. I should not have to go to the bathroom 3 times a day. Yes.
I have a question for Frank.
Sure.
I don't want to interrupt you. Were you done?
I've got lots more, but this is actually great. Go ahead.
Her husband has sarcoidosis, and he also has granulomatous inflammation in the kidneys.
Right.
And he is so sick.
Oh, kidneys. We've had so many patients come in with kidney disorders because they will rarely ever tell you that they're curable. The kidneys are your big filter, along with your liver. If you put trash in, it's got to filter it out. And the problem is that people like with kidney stones or such, the other doctors tend to go, okay, well, I'm going to treat you with anti-inflammatories. Okay, I'm going to give you things that will break up stones. Usually they don't. They usually just go with surgery. Instead of going, let's get rid of the garbage you're putting into the kidneys. Let's take the load off of them. So the kidneys are actually pretty easy to work with. But again, it always boils down to one thing. Hence, like I told you in the beginning, out of 10 new cancer patients that come to the clinic, 7 will never come back after their very first appointment because they won't change their diet. I had one woman years ago that I didn't ask her to go vegetarian. I didn't ask her to go vegan. I just simply went, your diet is so bad, if you'll just improve it. Just improve it. I saw her the next month. She came in for her regular follow-up. And she said, what you said to me upset me so bad. I went back to my other doctor and got on an antidepressant. Obviously, that case did not work out too well. Okay.
If that person were to see you or contact you, is that something that you...
Oh, absolutely.
And then vegan, the person
Okay.
is vegan.
That's wonderful. Okay, that's great. Let's talk about that for a second.
I was just hoping that you could also kind of repeat the question with
Oh.
the microphone so that we kind of go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Great idea. Okay. She was asking, how am I such a wonderful person? She's the individual, is a friend of hers who has a kidney disorder, wondering if we can treat it. Yes, we can. There's not a condition I know of that we can't treat. That's not making me a great doctor. I'm saying there's nothing that is incurable. But the next question was an interesting one. This is really important to touch on. She said, well, her friend's already a vegan. All right. Okay. My wife has come to a conclusion that I really wholeheartedly agree with. The word vegan is not a good word anymore. What we really like is the term plant-based. Okay, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Dr. Greger, Michael Greger.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful man. He is a staunch vegan physician too, vegan doctor. Love his videos. He said that you have to be careful when your patients tell you that they're vegan. Because there's some really, really, really bad vegans out there. If you go to a wonderful website, great for transitioning, there's a wonderful website called veganessentials.com. Okay? You name it, they pretty much have it.
Are you talking about the store or the recipes?
The store. The store, yeah. It's called veganessentials.com. Hundreds and hundreds, right? Hundreds and hundreds of vegan alternatives. There's vegan Twinkies, vegan, you name it, they're out there. Are they really any better for you than Twinkies? Not much at all. Right, right. You know, maybe less animals suffer, but it still is not good for you. And so I became, for me, just a little of my history, I became a vegetarian in 1981, before a whole lot of our patients were even born. I became a vegetarian in 1981, like you, right? I became a vegan in 1991. It took me 10 years to give up a very serious opiate addiction called cheese. Cheese actually is said to have opiate qualities, and that's why it's so addictive. It took me 10 years to give up cheese. I love, just like that little boy, I love cheese pizzas. Okay, and I remember my wife were in a Pizza Hut on the coast in Alabama on vacation, and I was eating my cheese pizza in 1991, June, and I said, this is my last one I'll ever have again. And I was all boo-hoo sad. Of course, now there's tons of great vegan cheese pizzas. They're all wonderful, but we prefer to call those foods transitional foods. Go from the animal products, and people even do it in baby steps. Okay, let's give up dairy. We've got great dairy substitutes out there. Then let's give up red meat, and let's give up this and this. You can do it slowly or quickly. Okay, but some people get into the vegan foods that are just fantastic tasting, and they never leave those foods. You are supposed to, and it can take months, it can take years, you're supposed to go from a really, really bad diet, transition into vegan, and then eventually transition into more raw, fresh fruits and vegetables, living food. How can you build life with death? You know, there's that pizza commercial that says, love at 425 degrees. No, it's death at 425 degrees. Okay, so just because someone is vegan, and not criticizing at all, I don't know her, but we get that a lot. Patients will come in and they'll go, well, I'm vegan, why aren't I healthy? So I said, well, one of my favorite things to do is, because nutrition is free from the clinic, you know, once you're a patient, we're treating you, anything nutritional we'll do for free. One of the things I'd love to do is, I'd like you to do a 7-day food journal. I'd like you to go ahead and write down, and this one here could write encyclopedias on it. I'd like you to write down everything you eat, drink, and snack on for 7 days. Give it to me. I'll compute everything for you for free. It's vegan. No little animal died for it. But you're not going to live very long on it either. It's really not. I've had patients that did this, and not a single food in that week was alive. Not even a salad, not even an apple. Nothing. I said, okay, well, here's a problem right here. And so we try to counsel them into eating better, and that only makes the meds work faster. So just because you're vegan doesn't mean... And another thing with veganism, I've had this happen many times, where a patient will come and go, I tried being vegan, and my cholesterol went up. I said, that's right. That's right. We know that most cholesterol is caused by animal products. That's really the only true source for it. But you can still have high cholesterol as a vegan. Because remember, there's HDL and LDL. HDL is the good, LDL is the bad. A better way to think of LDL is damaged cholesterol. And who makes cholesterol? Your liver. Well, if your liver is in really bad shape, you're going to make bad cholesterol and it's going to go up. So just because you become a vegan, if you still eat horrendous, your cholesterol. But why does it actually spike after you become a vegan for a short time? And I tell patients this, because one woman came in and said, I was vegan and it spiked, and I went right back. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but you didn't give it time. Your liver is an amazing organ. It is your chemistry kit. It's your detox. The liver will try its very level best to detox all the garbage that we put in it. But after a while, the liver gets pooped. And it will make a choice. Either it will leave the toxins in your bloodstream, or it will take a bullet for you. And it will store it for you. They'll store it. So then eventually you get this bank of toxins. And then you go do something really smart. Do like a carrot juice cleanse. Okay, I have great holistic medications that are liver cleansers. Nothing that I've ever found beats a better liver cleanser than carrot juice. It is the best by far, bar none. So very often we will put a patient on a carrot juice cleanse where you drink carrot juice till it's coming out your ears for 3 days. sure enough, their liver cleans up. But here's what happens. The liver's storing all this, hoping one day you'll do something really nice for it. And then you do something like carrot juice or just eating really healthy. And the liver will actually go, oh, I got something to work with here. And it will start going through that store of toxins. And it gets dumped back into the bloodstream. And so temporarily, your cholesterol will go up. And I go, great. That says the liver is beginning to function again. And I had one patient who did a 3-day cleanse. And she was upset. Because around day 2, she was turning orange. And she said, the carrots are turning me orange. I said, no, they're not. Oh, no, it's the carrots. Carrots are orange, I'm orange. I said, no, you're actually yellow. It looks orange. I said, because what happens is, stay with it, don't stop it. Don't stop the amount of carrots you're doing. And after just a couple days, that orange will start to go away, even though you're taking the same amount of carrots. Because what is one of the things that the liver does with all those toxins? It turns it into bile. And it produces so much bile as a byproduct of detoxing that bile goes into your blood. The blood goes, I got to get rid of it, and sends it out to your body's largest organ. You look like an Oompa Loompa for just a little while, but it goes away after just a few days. So one of the things that I used to not see, because like I said, we do ultrasound at the clinic, I used to not see fatty livers in patients until they were like in their late 40s or 50s. I'm now seeing 25 years olds with fatty livers now. All right, and you can see the fat in the ultrasound. All right, so because people are eating worse and worse and worse now. So I don't know of too many people except little tiny ones that probably don't have to do liver cleanses. But most others, by the time they get their late teens, they pretty much do. All right, trying to think of anything else. Oh, this is kind of a, okay, go ahead.
On your carrot juice detox, do you eat anything or is it just drink carrot
If you actually do a carrot juice cleanse, what you do, okay, we can go into more detail some other time, but basically it's 3 days. There's more to it, but basically in 3 days. Every morning, a big old glass of prune juice with a tablespoon of olive oil in it. Olive oil is important here because it lubricates the bile ducts, keeps things going. Every morning you do that, so guess what? You're not going to be far from the bathroom. And then for the rest of each day, so it's prune juice every morning, and then for the rest of the day, it's literally this half-hour carrot juice, this half-hour water, this half-hour carrot juice, this half-hour water. And you do that all day long for 3 days.
How many ounces?
It's usually about 8 ounces. Great question. All right. Dr. Christopher got asked one time, said, how do I know when I'm drinking too much of something? So Dr. Christopher had an answer for him. He said, okay, I have a test you can do. All right, what is it? Do I need to write this down? No, it's actually pretty easy. You'll figure it out. All right. Okay, so how do I know if I'm drinking too much of something? So take these 2 fingers. All right. Put them right here. All right. Push your head over. When it comes out your ears, you've had enough. Just keep doing it. All right. So, yes?
The liver is the only organ in the body that will heal itself.
The liver is an amazing organ. Yeah, I like kind of how you phrase heal itself. Any organ can heal, but the liver has within it the things it needs to self-repair. Good job. Good job. I like you. Okay, another story. Okay, this is minor stuff, but it's amazing how many people get convinced to take drugs for the rest of their life, especially for something that seems very minor. Okay, 15 to 35% of all women in the U.S. end up with vaginosis. Okay, I don't know if everybody knows that, bacterial infection down south. All right, 15 to 35%. Well, 25% of all pregnant women do. Okay, but you're also told by a lot of doctors that once you get it, it's incurable. We had a little 9-year-old girl come in the clinic 6 to 8 months ago. Was a little 9-year-old with very, very, very serious vaginosis. It was actually E. coli. Okay, where does E. coli come from? Yeah, poop. That's right. The poop gets on the meat. That's right. Okay, what happens with a lot of little girls and older girls? They wipe in the wrong direction. Okay, so they end up getting a bacterial infection there. They've been to this other doctor and he said, oh, put you on tons of antibiotics and you'll live with this for the rest of your life. She came into the clinic and we swabbed, we checked. Oh yeah, you got it. Again, not tooting my own horn, you are the healers. Within a week, it was all gone. It was completely gone. The body is an amazing gift and it can heal from anything. All right, I think we about right? Okay, I could talk so I need to quit. Anyway, I appreciate this. It was a joy teaching everyone here. And
Please don't go away. I'm sure maybe there might be a
Oh.
couple more questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your mic isn't working.
Oh, well, there, I just have to get it closer to my mouth, right? That's the trick. We just wanted to thank you for coming and gracing us with all these stories. I hope everybody has enjoyed what they've been listening to. And what we'd like to do is just to kind of give a little bit of history. Our church became a movement in the mid-1800s, and right around 1860s, Ellen White, one of the members of the pioneers, started having visions. And part of the visions that she got were all these visions on health. And I don't know, maybe you have this book already, The Counsels on Diets and
I've
Food?
actually read some of that.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
very familiar with her.
Okay, well, I wanted to give you a book if you didn't have it. Okay. No, that's like a compilation of a lot of different of her writings in different places.
But you know what was true then is still true now.
It's still true now. And this is another book that she wrote called The Ministry of Healing, and it discusses in more detail these 8 laws of health. And we'd like to give that to you. I don't have a library edition, but I do have a paperback edition.
My wife knows I love books.
And I'm not going to give this one to you because this actually is Marla's book, but I've had it for years, and she probably forgot. But this man by the name of Robert Cohen, he read this book, and then he started doing research in the medical journals. And he saw that 500 of her divinely inspired dietary visions have been fulfilled, proven. You know, she saw cancer, and she saw a lot of different things. And so if we incorporate these 8 laws of health into our diet, into our lifestyle, and change our lifestyles, that we can, just as the doctor has said, we can reverse and overcome so many of the things that are plaguing us in America. So we want to encourage you all to do that. If you haven't already started a nice program like this, visit with the doctor and get on a good program. And she talks about those fake meats, we call them.
Fake meats.
The fake meats. A
Transition.
lot of people call them their vegan vegetarian diet, but it's not really good for us. She called them analogs. She said they were stepping stones.
Exactly.
We were supposed to step onto them as we were transitioning. So many of us don't ever step off. So that's the trouble.
That's right.
So we try to encourage people to stay with the plants, the live food, and not use those things. So if you'd like to answer a few more questions, then that would be great. If you're wanting to leave, feel free to leave. And if you wanted to get a sample of the alfalfa seeds and to start sprouting, I have that at the table back there. Also, if you would like to learn about our upcoming programs, if you haven't already done so, you can give me an email address or a phone number and we'll notify you next month. Same thing, same time, same place. On the 3rd Sunday afternoon, we do this. So, thank you for coming.
I'll take a few minutes here for some questions real quick. You have been patient. Go
I
ahead.
have a question about cancer when it's metastasized to the liver. Is that something that can be worked out, or?
Okay, so that you can get a really quick lesson about me, I will never say no. I have never found anything. We have dealt with patients before that had metastasized to the bone, it had metastasized to the brain, or it had metastasized to the liver. It requires a very strong commitment from the patient as far as the willingness to adhere to the program, the willingness to adhere to taking the meds as well as the diet. I mean, nothing is incurable. It's hard. I will not sugarcoat it, but it can be
Try
done.
to keep your voices down when he's talking.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, yes.
What would you look for in a dentist for removal?
Oh, great question. Great question. That's really hard. I know that I was just getting a list together. I know that there's a holistic dentist like down in Chico, but the biggest thing you can do if you want your amalgams removed, you need to make sure that when you talk to them, they go, do you know how to do it? And of course, they'll always say yes. You have to say, do you use the dam? There's a special dam they have to use. The way they suction the air as well as the fluids out. If they don't use a dam, it's not somebody you want to work with. That is so important that you do that. So that's one of the biggest things you can do. Okay. Yes?
Insomnia.
Don't lose any sleep over it. No. Okay, insomnia. We deal with that quite a bit. There's a problem with insomnia. We've been blessed and very successful with it. There are many reasons for insomnia. There's psychological reasons, there's brain chemistry reasons, there's toxemia. There's a lot of reasons. Yes, we work with it, but there are so many reasons for it. Do you know what I mean? We would have to actually dig down and find out why this individual has insomnia. You know what I mean?
Okay, I need.
Okay. Yes.
Have you had success with psoriatic arthritis?
Oh, okay, excellent. Wonderful subject. He asked if we have ever had success with psoriatic arthritis. Okay, that too is part of the psoriasis family. It's an autoimmune. Again, it's autoimmune. Okay. Dr. Christopher used to like to call it the incurables. In other words, whatever one other doctor says is incurable, so it falls in that. The incurables, psoriatic, type 1 diabetes, MS, they all fall into cancer. They all fall into the incurables, which means that any patient that, and we've dealt with it very successfully, it requires a commitment. You have to be willing to change your diet. You have to be willing to go through the protocols. But we've had very good success with it. Remember the gentleman that I said where his back regrew, the bone, the cartilage? It does regrow. Okay, I know that with psoriatic, there's an immense amount of inflammation. You're destroying that area. It can regrow. It absolutely can. So we've had a lot of success with it. Oh, okay, biologics, as far as like, right. I have a real problem with the term biologic when we're talking about pharmaceuticals. Because I don't know, no, you didn't be wrong. They call them, she wanted to know about the drug classes called biologics that they take for these types of disorders. Okay, there's nothing biological about it. It's still a drug, it's still a chemical. Okay, remember that there is only one reason why any drug is classified as a prescription drug. It's because it's a poison. And it's legally the reason a drug becomes a prescription is because it's a poison and it has to be monitored. So a biologic is just another term that came out with it. They might hold it at bay, until eventually you get immune to it, but they don't cure. They hold it at bay until finally you build up the tolerance and it doesn't work anymore. Right, exactly. So hoarseness.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Her question was, what causes hoarseness? Okay, that's another one of those like insomnia. There's so many reasons that cause hoarseness. Sometimes hoarseness is something as simple as acid reflux. Sometimes it's a lot more serious. So you have to dig down and find out what's going on. Okay, but it's not hard to work with once we figure it out. Okay. I'll take. Okay, what? Oh my gosh. She asked, are there any herbs that are good for arthritis? Oh my gosh, there's so many. But keep in mind here, okay, and then I think you had a question, right? Okay, that'll be one more after you pick hers. Remember, okay, anybody ever heard the term allopathic? Okay, allopathic. Allopathic means to treat the symptoms only, all right? You should not go under allopathic medicine, but remember, even herbal medicine can be allopathic. We can give you really strong willow and it will help the pain, but it won't cure it. We have pain relievers, we do things in the clinic that help, but the end-all be-all is to cure the arthritis, make your arthritis go away. And there's 3 classes of arthritis, so we would have to know which one, because each one's different, but they are all curable. Oh, that's one of the easiest. Yeah, just regular old inflammation of the bursa, and it causes damage to it. It's very, very simple to work with. Yeah, so we can, And one more. Go ahead. Hey, I'm sorry, guys, I can't hear.
Hormones, do they play a role in joint pain? Is there any
Okay, absolutely. And here's kind of the indirect reason why. 50% of all women with hormonal problems, 50% of all women with hormonal problems actually have a gluten sensitivity. Right? Not saying that's the issue, there are many reasons, but if half of all women have gluten sensitivities cause inflammation. And inflammation then causes more joint pain. So, plus if your hormones are not in balance, especially estrogen, then your joints don't stay lubricated correctly, you start ending up with osteopenia and osteoporosis. So there can be a relationship there.
Should you eat like more plant-based food that has estrogen in it?
Should you eat more plant-based what?
Yeah, that has estrogen, natural occurring estrogen. We don't advertise.
Okay, that actually does help. Like red raspberry leaf tea, yam, organic soy in its whole form, not in soy isolates, they all do help. What you'll produce a type of estrogen called estriol, which is E3. It can help. It can help. What do you want?
What's your thought on depression and anxiety?
On anxiety? Okay, your question was, what's our thought on anxiety? And depression. That was very good what he just said. There is never anxiety without depression and depression without anxiety. They are never without one or the other. One may be dominant, but there's always both of them. The problem with anxiety is again, this is one of the issues. There are many reasons for anxiety. There's many reasons for depression. Sometimes it's chemical, and we treat it. And we also do counseling at the center. Not that I'm trying to get you to come there. But sometimes anxiety can simply be because you're trying to get over some past issues you've never met resolution with. What bothers me is in this country, there are 64 million prescriptions a year of Prozac. Prozac doesn't cure depression or anxiety. It may cover it up, but it causes people not to get to the root cause. And very often, it is an unresolved issue that then can lead to chemistry. But sometimes it is just brain chemistry. It just depends on the reasons why. Hope that helps. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Thank you.